Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Earlier, we were observing World Earth Day, how it's going to be planet versus plastic. And by 2040, we need to reduce 60% of the plastic that we consume. Okay, that's my bit. Now, I think that the topic that we have picked up on is very close to Hajra as well, so I will allow her to take the lead.
Right,
Please,
so we really want to talk about the concept of the reading, the book reading, and how the inclusivity of the book reading should be the question that we need to ponder upon in Pakistan. So without any further monopolizing our conversation, I think we would quickly like to introduce our guest, because this conversation is going to get very exciting. We are very glad that we have been joined by Ms. Sabeen Naz, who happens to be an educationist and also a remedial therapist. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show, Ms. Sabeen.
Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to join your show.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair. And Ms. Sabeen is also joined by Ms. Fatima Gilani, who happens to be a philanthropist and also the lawyer. She is also the CEO of the Read Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, Ms. Fatima, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right. So, Ms. Sabeen, let's start the conversation with you. And since you are dealing with the concept of inclusive education, and we know for the fact that the detection rate of the neurodiversity or the neurodiverse conditions is increasing it's very alarming, right? Or is it alarming? We would like to ask you, so what sort of concept of the inclusive education have you embarked upon, and how do you individually cater to the needs of kids? Because obviously for a teacher it might become a very burdensome task, right? Differently catering to every other person's needs and every child's need, which is very different in educational institutions.
Yes, you are absolutely right that the situation is very alarming. And unfortunately, we don't have any research here in Pakistan, but according to American statistics, that 1 out of 5 is a dyslexic, means who has learning difficulties. So it is really very alarming situation, no doubt. And for that, we have recently introduced dyslexic law. We have managed to pass a dyslexic law by the President Alvi of Pakistan. And now we have introduced an inclusive setup in education sector, and in which we cater the needs of almost all sort of who have learning difficulties.
And you call it IDEAS, the Institute of Dyslexia Education and Aptitudinal Studies as well. You know, it's a wonderful initiative. Please tell us a little more about it.
It's Alhamdulillah, we are the pioneer sort of persons who started working on dyslexia, and we are the first institution of the North in Pakistan.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So we've actually really struggled for it, because it's a neurological disorder. So we can't actually see that this disability. So unfortunately, it is not very much identified. We cannot really identify that this person is
because symptoms are very stealthy sort of symptoms. They do not manifest as like of the physical disease. But now let's move on to Ms. Fatima. So because of the paucity of the time, Ms. Fatima, since you happen to be the CEO of the Read Pakistan, so tell us about this initiative. And considering the fact that, since I'm also a teacher and I do see that there's a declining trend among the young people about the book reading, because in order to get the information, they either go to their mobile phones or their digital gadgets. The information is very quick, it's very short, as compared to book, which requires your time and investment into reading. So is it alarming, I mean, the declining trend of the book reading?
Because I don't think that it's alarming though, but yeah, please go on.
It is alarming.
We'll talk about it.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, digitalization is definitely one of the prime problems that are persisting in the society right now. And when I started up, that was like a decade back, 10 years back. So this wasn't a factor that was the main focus, because at that time digitalization wasn't that kind of a thing which would actually alarm you, like the way you said it. But right now, yes, with the passage of time, we have observed that this has become a really big problem. Now, when, like you've talked about the initiative, so when I started like 10 years back, the only thing or the only notion behind the whole, the whole facet of it was that I wanted to return back to community. And I have struggled for about 2 years, and I've invested my time in different genres. So just to pick the right kind of genre, and eventually we reached to Ikra Bismi Rabbika Allazi Khalaq. So myself and the chairman, Mr. Farooq Dal, this was the initiative by us, but when we were initiating it, we had simply no idea that this was going to go so further, that we would be able to establish 53 libraries all over Pakistan.
Awesome.
That's wonderful.
And not just that, we've done 100+ conferences and seminars all over Pakistan. We have about signed MOUs with 25 major universities, including Punjab University and Qaid-e-Azam University.
What
and so
exactly
on.
is your initiative? Do you want to revive the book reading, or I mean, do you want to rope in the younger people into it?
Yes.
How are you going to deal with the alternative of the digitalization, which is a threat to book reading?
Yes. So now the actual, I would rather say the baseline to Read Pakistan is that, number one, we want to develop the love for books.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to hard copies, that's altogether something that I personally like myself, and I know
Yes.
that Ms. Sabine likes it too. But we cannot negate that there are audiobooks, there are ebooks in the market as well.
Oh, yes.
And we just cannot ignore that fact at the same time. So generally, one, love for books. How do we bring back the community to reading? Because when you're watching a short video on say, for instance, different areas, Insta,
yeah.
Facebook, and so on, I think you're wasting a lot of your time.
I think I
But
learned
if-
quite a lot from videos, you know, rather than going through a book, a
And
lengthy book as
every-
well, and reading it. You know, I'll come back to that. This is not something
and
which
everybody would know
No.
that's like a short
this
clip
is something,
knowledge
this is
that
something
you
which
have.
I would want to kind of talk
That-
about
that is
because of the
shrinking
fact.
your attention span
allow
a
me to
lot.
speak first. Allow me to speak. The only reason why I'm putting this argument over here is that imagine that, you know, some people can learn better when they read better, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Some people can learn better because of their photographic memory as well. Now, what I'm going to question you about is that why do we associate, you know, book reading? Why do we have to say e-book reading? Why can't we associate reading, may it be book, may it be e-book, may it be from
Tweets.
anywhere else as well? You know, that's what one thing, because what do we want people to do? We want people to read, right? So
Yes.
even if it's from a book, even if it's from an e-book, even if it's from somewhere else, even if it's from the wall, I think it's reading which is most important, no?
That's exactly what I said. That basically, Ikra bismi rabbika lazi, Ikra doesn't
Padho.
say that, you know, it doesn't say कि आप किताब पढ़ें.
True.
It says पढ़ो. So in general, the basic initiation is that you read. So love for books actually means that we're bringing them down back to reading itself. So this is the actual thought
And how do you
process.
think Read Pakistan will actually have that?
Okay, so we have 6 different modules for that. Now I'm talking about the technical side of
Yep.
it. So each age is divided. So I would put it that 6 different modules are basically from 6 different age groups of your life.
Okay.
So starting from the baby in the womb of the mother, so we move to the teachers, who are obviously very important, like yourself. Then the parents, who are the basic structure for developing the reading habit. And then you move on to the next level where you become, of course, when you're you know, in that area, when you say that I'm a career oriented person and you don't have time for reading books.
Yeah.
So that is another module that caters to that category, who say that we don't have time for reading and so on.
So it's a continuous process,
Yes,
which is
it
why
is.
I will come back to, you know, the rest of the you know, modules which you
Yes.
guys offer at Read Pakistan, but I would want to come to Miss Sabine over here. Now, Miss Sabine, you happen to be, alhamdulillah, a teacher, a certified teacher yourself. How many times do you think that you've made sure that you're going to take initiative on making sure that your students read other than whatever the curriculum had to offer? Have you ever, you know, kind of come across a situation where bachche la, "Puttar pad lo, bachcho pad lo, bachcho pad lo."
Or develop the love of
Yeah.
the reading so that they read it themselves, not as something, you know,
कहना
that
ना
is
पड़े ना।
imposed from above. Yes.
Yes, actually, I'm a remedial therapist. Remedial therapist is a bit different
yes.
than the
You were
teacher.
a volunteer teacher at IMCG F1,
Yes,
F5
I
1 year.
have taught as well. I have worked voluntarily, but my degree and my profession
Remedial
is remedial
therapist,
therapist. So remedial therapist is a person who actually encourages or helps children who have learning difficulty with the reading and writing
Yep.
issues. So
मुझे बहुत मसला है मैडम मेरे से नहीं पढ़ने होता I do feel like reading but okay, you know, so what I've done is that I do know how important it is for me and my career. So what I do is that even if it's 3 pages, even if it's 4 pages, I will read it, you know, so just to get it out of the box as well. It's a form of self-discipline for me.
What are you reading now?
Yeah, so these days I'm reading The Last City of Love, you know, because just very recently the author was over here. And the most interesting bit was that these days what I'm witnessing is that, you know, for all of those authors who are actually coming in today's time, you are writing, are actually vibing with the newer generation. So that was
Exactly.
something which I was kind of fascinated about, that okay, you know, they're exactly writing how we speak these days. So I think that the literature always needs to be really modern. I think that's the way that I would want to learn it. You know, vocabulary really needs to be on the higher edge. You know, it really needs to be Queen's English. You know, so something like that. But I think that in today's time, everybody's an author as well. You know, so probably I don't know. This is another argument. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Actually, this is also a problem. But being a remedial therapist, we are trained to apply some pedagogies and strategies which enables a child or an adult.
Because I think when you deal with the kids who are neurodiverse rather than who are neurotypical, and most of the models of pedagogical models of the teaching are very teacher centric, right? So teacher is considered the sole authority, and you need to follow her whatever she is saying, right? But I think with the evolution, with the passing of the time, with the digitalization, we are saying that that model may be moving more towards a student centric.
How is it in your classroom, Hajra?
Exactly. So it's a bit of both, right? So I am constantly asking them questions, I'm gauging their interest, and they are also contributing.
So then they really need to come prepared. Otherwise, you know, there's no way that they can get through the class, right?
I mean, okay, with that, because I'm teaching social sciences, so that require how you deal with your mental faculty. So I want them to exercise them, because we have always been blessed by the blessing of Allah called Akal, right? So with that, how do you think our teaching curriculum should need to move towards more teacher-centric from the teacher-centric to more student-centric models?
Bilkul, that's what actually the single national curricula has developed.
Right.
That now we are working as a interactive lessons and classes, and it was missing prior to that. And we have trained exactly the government. We have introduced it to the government sector as well, because prior, when we entered to training system to government sector, when we asked them to do go for the brainstorming, they didn't know even what is exactly brainstorming. So, say bata rahe ho. So it's a great change actually, and we have introduced a multidisciplinary team that everybody, we can't work all alone. First of all, the student, then the teacher, the class teacher, the subject teacher, then the management and the parents. And this is the actually trust of our intervention or program, that parents have to cooperate with the child, with the student. If we are not going to work collaboratively, we were unable to promote this reading culture. And for reading, there are so many techniques, as you have asked. It's very easy that we give them, you can write few tags, yellow strips, stick-ons. You can put it on your wall and shelves, and you just write the name, clock, door, bell, table. This is how the child starts reading. It is how you can develop a reading habit of reading.
And thank you so much, Ms. Sabeen, for saying that as well, because I've seen in my family as well, alhamdulillah, that where my siblings, when they read, obviously all of their children are reading. This is one thing which I'm going to kind of say with 100% guarantee, that because my wife, we read at home. That's one reason why my daughters love to read. They would always be in our library, in our book corner. They would always take out something and we'll sit down and talk about it.
And storytelling is also very important.
Exactly.
If a parent is sitting with the child, and especially at night, I know, I know, mashallah.
So the rest of the modules of the Read Pakistan initiative, please take us through that as well. You mentioned 3.
Yes, well, I've mentioned that we have altogether 6 modules. One is for the teachers, the other one is for the parents, and so on. So one of the way that Sabeen is saying, so we also give them how these are sort of workshops in which they are told how you can attract different age groups towards the books.
Right.
So when it comes to little babies, primary and secondary, they have a completely different altogether attitude towards books. They are more enthusiastic and more encouraged towards walking towards a book. And but what their basic problem comes in is the initiative to stick to that book. The persistence part is missing. with the teenagers, we have noticed with the passage of time that they would be very difficult to grab in. But once they're grabbed in, then they try to stick with books. And usually it is the fiction that they're liking. Then also the digitalization plays its role, the way you said it.
And how important is the environment around them? Now,
Oh,
imagine
very
that, you know,
most important.
because when we go into a restaurant, we
Yes.
most of the time before even having the food, we love it because of the ambience that we get in the restaurant, right? So do you think that there are certain atmospheres that you would certainly feel like reading? For example, if I am somewhere, you know, I have lush green lawns in front of me, you know, there's a hammock hanging, you know, there's sun out, I would certainly want to read over there. You know, that's one thing which I would love to do. So do you think that it's the environment which kind of pushes somebody away from the books or kind of attracts to the books?
Yes, definitely. This is one of the major things. There are more than 70 papers that I personally have been through, research papers, and it's very important that, you know, the ambience counts as much. Well, starting from the very beginning, when the child is in the womb, that is the first ambience that he gets. If the mother is reading, the child will automatically start reading. Okay. When, you know, of course, he's in the world and he's interacting. So, another of the examples is that, you know, in Britain, mostly what happens is that when a baby is delivered, they usually give a, you know, set of books to be gifted to the mother to read it out to them, and so on. So this is the starting of the ambience. And now then, coming to your point, it's so important that where you're sitting, a good place. That is the reason why most of the researchers come down to that you need to make your own corner to sit there, to enjoy the luxury of books. So it is something which is there. It's considered to be a luxury all over the world. So I've been to a couple of countries myself, and I see that everybody is carrying a book, and it's not doesn't have to be a book. When I was young, yes, definitely it was a book, but it can be a phone that you're carrying an audio book in, or you're carrying an e-book in, and it's perfectly fine like that. But people do have that connection, that love, that association with books, because this is something where you can associate yourself with.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for putting it right up as well. You know, for everybody who's out there, just because of the shortage of time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to wrap up over here. But thank you so much, Ms. Fatima, for being with us. Yes.
Just I wanted to add in her point, very quickly, that Read Pakistan, as you're talking about the ambience and environment, Read Pakistan is actually conducting hikes. And in that they have a book session over there where we conduct
I don't know
a
whether
story.
you should be reading while you're hiking as well.
No, when we reach a certain
over there.
No, when we reach
okay, so when you reach somewhere, then you sit down
and we do.
Only if you can catch your breath.
We understand, but somebody actually do the narration or some storytelling session over there.
Exactly, that can certainly happen. But thank you so much, Ms. Sabine, for being with us. Thank you so much, Ms. Fatima, for being with us. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, if your parents are going to read, you're going to read too as well. So if you are a parent and your parents weren't reading, you should read because of the fact that you know that your kids will read, just because of the fact that they're seeing their parents read. Until next time, look after yourselves. It's a good morning. Have a great week ahead.
Good morning.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.